And it's for a couple of reasons, because everything for me relates back to the Eagles. Like, for instance, last year, the Cardinals started out 7-0. All right, we think 4-0 is great. They were 7-0 last year, and then they went 4-6 the rest of the way. So things can fall off, the wheels can fall off the wagon rather quick.
Marc Farzetta wearing the Phillies hat look at him. There he is. Look at him. He's wearing the Fanatic hat I got in the game. What was it? What was that, the promotion? 2 years ago?
I got it for free. Somebody just gave it to me. I don't remember. Not at the game. I think we gave him out in the radio business somewhere along the lines, and somebody gave me one. I think they were trying to tell me something for being the follically challenged man that I am.
Oh, I am too. But, I'm proud of my roots, Mark. I know you are too. But hey, I got you working overtime today. Varsity shows from 6 to 7, and I got you on here at 7:20. How you been, man?
I've been fantastic. Great to be on with you. I appreciate you reaching out. And I saw you had the Phillies gear on, so I figured I'd represent. The only thing is, these hats wildly hot, surprisingly hot. So can only keep it on for a certain amount of time.
There must be a problem with the headphones too. I would imagine.
Probably. That's probably part of it. Yeah. It was good to be on, man.
Yeah. First question I got to ask you. Are the Phillies and Cardinals going to score more runs today than what the Broncos and Colts put up last night?
Oh, my God. That was terrible. Is there a more last year, I remember thinking, oh, my God, Nick Sirianni is so overmatched. He's so not prepared for this. Seems like a swell guy, but he is coaching right now about as well as his first press conference went. Terrible. Nathaniel seems to be the same exact guy in terms of not being ready for an NFL head coaching job. And that offense isn't clicking. Russell Wilson hasn't done anything special while being down there in his first couple of weeks as a member of the Broncos. He hasn't looked sharp. And I think he was nervous as hell at being on the goal line last night to try to win that game, and threw into a tight window, wasn't able to get the completion that would have ended up being a win. But, man, that could not have backfired any more on the Denver Broncos than what they have done with their new head coach and their new quarterback.
Did you get to hear Wilson's press conference, by the way, what he said at the end?
The only thing I heard him say was I saw the clip where he was talking about how he cost his team the win.
Yeah, so after that, he feels really remorseful, feels really bad. And at the end, he goes, Broncos country, let's ride. Could you imagine if someone did that in Philadelphia, said that at the end of a press conference? Like, dude, how dense are you at this point?
Yeah, that's an attempt at, I think, what Joe Burrow did in terms of attempting to sound like Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers already has that Super Bowl ring in his back pocket, as we all know. He's got a couple MVP trophies. He's a little bit more trustworthy for his fan base. He can get away with that. Joe Burrow has won Super Bowl appearance. Calm down. You shouldn't even be saying it. Russell Wilson won a Super Bowl a long time ago with a pretty great defense as well. You're the first time in a new city. You can't say that. I don't care how veteran you are. And to be honest with you, unless you're Tom Brady, I don't care about your resume. You don't say that. And if that happened here in Philadelphia, hell, even if Aaron Rodgers said that in Philadelphia, the relax, or Joe Burrow says that, or hey, let's ride, like last night you just told me about with Russell Wilson, Philadelphia would be a great conflagration, all right, with pissed off fans saying, oh, you're telling me to relax? Because Philadelphia, I think, is the definition of a city that's like, if you're trying to be too optimistic when we know that there's no reason for optimism, we know that you're BSing us. And we will not stand for that as a fan base or as a city. So, yes, to answer your question, it would be a horrible reaction from the fan base if they were ever told, hey, yeah, so we just lost again, and you're spending, $230 million on me? So, yeah, you know what? Let's go. Yeah, okay. Pump the brakes there, Russ. All right, things are getting crazy over here.
Yeah, we almost had a world where Russell Wilson was quarterback for the Eagles and Allen Robinson was catching passes from him, and, man, did the Eagles dodge a bullet. I'm a big Russell Wilson guy, Farzy, but it's – I don't know. And to me, it seems like the Eagles weren't good enough for him. The Giants weren't good enough for him. The Commanders weren't good enough for him. All these teams weren't good enough for him but the Broncos. And I think that's why a lot of people are getting on him right now, because he's kind of getting his just desserts where, oh, these are the teams I want to go to because I'm Russell Wilson and I get to pick this. And no, dude, like, you're not the same player anymore.
Yeah, he is definitely not. Look, he played a long time without missing any games, and he played a very I'll say, physical style of quarterback. Like, he wasn't afraid to take a hit. He oftentimes was smart and wouldn't take that big hit more often than not, but it's still a long career of playing every single game, every single snap up until last year where Geno Smith had to come in for him for the finger injury. It's almost, in a way, it's not exactly like by any means, but it's in a way like running backs that exert so much effort, take so many hits throughout their short careers. They have a short prime. Russell Wilson's prime, I think, will be shortened because of the way he has played the position. Mostly it's been safe, but he has been a focal point of that Seattle offense for a lot of years. And now he's going to be the focal point right now, especially with Williams going out. He's going to be a focal point of that Broncos offense as well. So it's a big toll that I think is adding up right now with Russell Wilson.
So when you watch the games on Prime, do you watch the post-game show at all, like with Whitworth and Sherman, those guys?
I don't.
You missed the ball.
I'm a fan of Chris Thompson. I'm a fan of. I like Ryan Fitzpatrick and his career. It's just insane. I like Richard Sherman, his career, the whole thing. But like that show for me just doesn't do it, man. I can't pull it off.
Well, Sherman went off last night, obviously, because the 4-for-1 play, they all run the ball, and he's just like, for the love of God, run the dang ball. And like you can tell he was getting these flashbacks of back in his days with Seattle. And I like Richard Sherman. I think he's a good guy, but man, I would hate to be his teammate. He just reminds me of a guy. He reminds you of every little thing you do wrong, but he does nothing wrong.
He reminds me of the person at the office that is hypercritical on everything. Like pick your battles, man. Pick your battles. And sometimes you don't have to fight over the fact that the copier isn't working. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's something that doesn't need to be said anymore. Everyone said it. There's a list of people that want it to be fixed, like fix the copier. Like, but he's the guy that every single time will tell you to stop microwaving your tomato soup because he can smell it in his cubicle. Something like that. Like, he is just that guy at the office. So I agree with you on your analysis of Richard Sherman as a broadcaster.
Yeah, and look, I like the guy. Like, I think he was a great player. He probably will go to the Hall of Fame because of the difference-making ability he had. But, man, does he have something out for Russ? He really does. Is it Russell Wilson's fault he threw the pick, or is it the coach's fault he called the play?
I don't blame them for throwing, because what were they, on the 4-yard line at that point?
Are they on the 4? I thought they were on the 1.
If they were on the 1, that was a hell of a drop back, but I'll have to go back and look at it. But yes, 9 times out of 10, if they are on the run, just keep running it up the middle. It's along the same lines as what Jason Kelsey was saying about just run a quarterback sneak. Just run a quarterback sneak. Just need to punch it in from that point on. They tried running it. They got stuffed once or twice. They tried throwing it, and it just didn't. It didn't happen for them, unfortunately. I just think that they remind me of even though it's a quarterback and it's a coach, they remind me of a piecemeal team put together. Like, hey, maybe this will work. Put that there. Hey, maybe this will work. Put that there. And it's just not working. In no way, shape, or form is it working right now for the Denver Broncos.
Yeah. And you know what's worse? We get them in primetime again in 11 days. What are we doing here?
Let's bask in it.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. Between Thursday Night Football and what's coming Sunday with the Eagles game, I think this is going to be a sneaky good game to me. Eagles and Cardinals. I think the Cardinals are. Personally, I thought they were going to be dead in the water after 2 weeks of the year. Yeah, they were getting blown out by the Raiders. Mm-hmm. Kyler Murray just leads them on this incredible comeback. Hunter Renfrow just fumbles the football, and the Cardinals didn't lead that game to the end. They've only led for 13 offensive snaps this entire season, but yet they're 2-2 and they're staying afloat without their game changer and DeAndre Hopkins. What do you make of this team?
Yeah, I am really interested by the Cardinals season so far. And it's for a couple of reasons, because everything for me relates back to the Eagles. Like, for instance, last year, the Cardinals started out 7-0. All right, we think 4-0 is great. They were 7-0 last year, and then they went 4-6 the rest of the way. So things can fall off, the wheels can fall off the wagon rather quick. So I think I take a lesson from the Cardinals last year, but then this year, it's like they're obviously trying to recapture that same magic that they had at the start of last year. And they just haven't been able to do that. When you look at the teams that they beat, you mentioned the Raiders, they also come back. And who else did they beat? They beat the
Panthers.
Thank you. And I'm watching those games, and I'm thinking to myself, the magic is there against these poor teams. And it's not like the Eagles have beaten a team that's a Super Bowl favorite by any means, but they can only rally against these teams that just don't know how to put the wins together. Against the Rams, they really couldn't do it. And when I watched that game, I was watching Kyler Murray just look like he was out of sync throughout that game. And the only guys that I really see him on the same page with. One is Zach Ertz in the red zone, who we all know all too well here in Philadelphia. And the other is Marquise Brown, who has a lot of experience, especially with his years there in Baltimore playing with Lamar Jackson, has a lot of experience about playing with a quarterback that can extend plays and bomb the ball downfield. So it's like he really hasn't had much of a change in terms of what he needs to do as a wide receiver. So those two guys are huge targets, obviously, for Kyler Murray. On the defensive side of things, I look at a guy like J.J. Watt, and yes, 33 years old, but Jalen Hurts has had a little bit of a problem with batted balls at the line of scrimmage. And J.J. Watt still does the same thing at 33 years old that he did at 23 years old, which is the minute the quarterback starts reeling back to make that throw, he almost forgets about his one-on-one battle and just puts his hands up in the air. He does the same thing now that he did at 23. So that's something that Jalen Hurts is going to have to be a little bit cautious of when he's trying to make those short throws, whether they're out of the backfield to Miles Sanders or Kenny Gainwell, or their slant routes to A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. Or even Dallas Goedert. That's one thing he's going to have to be a really specific thing he's going to have to be aware of as he's executing plays for Nick Sirianni on Sunday.
I was one of the biggest Chandler Jones fans on the planet. I still am, but he is up there now. He's 33, 34. I'm trying to remember how old he is, but the Cardinals let him go. And just talking to a lot of people out there, that was a very controversial move. Like, how you let Chandler Jones go? Who's going to rush the passer? And they decided, you know what? We're going to get rid of him. We're going to get rid of Jordan Phillips. That contract didn't work out. And they decided to put Zach Allen in there. Zach Allen has been a really good passer. He's been a really good run stopper. Chandler Jones don't have a sack yet. So it seems like the Cardinals, everybody wants to criticize the Kyler Murray contract, fine. But I feel like they're making a lot of smart moves in terms of, okay, we know we're paying this guy. We got to draft well. We got to be more logical with our signs. And it seems to be paying off for him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's an interesting thing. I feel like the Cardinals, and I think Kyler Murray is a great talent. I feel like the Cardinals have been almost forced into situations with Kyler Murray. And it might be a good forcing. I don't think he's been phenomenal by any means, but he's been good. He's been very good. He's been a top 10 quarterback, okay? When you look at Kyler Murray, when he got drafted, you remember Cliff Kingsbury coming out there and saying, "Oh, if I had the first pick in the draft, I'd take Kyler Murray." And then he became an NFL head coach with the number 1 overall pick, and he was like, "Well, I guess I got to take Kyler Murray now." He took Kyler Murray. And then once you take a number 1 overall pick, a quarterback at the number overall, you got to sign him to a huge contract extension. So they were kind of in that, but the idea of him getting that workout clause that I know you mentioned earlier, that's never a good sign. That you got to add an incentive to doing your job, essentially. That seems very odd to me. And when I hear him, you talked about Russell Wilson in his post-game press conferences. I know this phrase gets said all the time, but you can't throw your receivers under the bus. When you talk about drop passes like have been plaguing the receivers for the Cardinals this season, you can't talk about how that's a drive-killing play. That's a drive-killing happening for your wide receivers. You got to take you got to take responsibility for it, even if everybody in the building knows that it's the wide receiver who dropped the ball. The head coach can't say that. The quarterback shouldn't say it. That's not a solid leadership skill. Bottom line is, it's not just about playing for your talent. It's following you. I have a friend of mine, long-term military guy, very successful in the business world as well. And he would always tell me when I was coming up in the business world, he would tell me about how if you had a boss, would you follow them if they didn't have the authority? Like if they weren't given the authority to be your boss, would you still follow them? And it was like, wow, there's maybe one boss I've had that I would do that for. And Kyler Murray isn't that boss. He's not that field general that you're following night in and night out, afternoon after afternoon to try to rally behind. He's the guy that's like, well, why should I be making plays for this guy? If the ball comes to me, yes, I got to make the play. But if I'm going to throw my body in front of somebody else for this guy, yeah, maybe not, because maybe this ain't the guy to do it. So I think leadership comes into it a lot with Kyler Murray.
Yeah, and with the Cardinals wide receivers, I mean, they're finally starting to get healthy. Antoine Wesley's coming back. AJ Green's still banged up. Marquise Brown's banged up, but he's been playing. They're going to get DeAndre Hopkins back at some point. But you're right with Kyler Murray. He's been throwing a lot of these guys under the bus. It's almost like the McNabb, we showed our youth comment. And I feel bad for Kyler Murray. I really do. But, you're throwing to some guy named Greg Dortch. But you can't let people know you're throwing to some guy named Greg Dortch. Allow us to criticize Greg Dortch. You don't have to do it because ultimately, you're going to have to rely on him to win football games for you. And Kyle, to me, it's weird because I don't think he's a me guy. I just think he wants people to be on the same page with him, but he doesn't know how to do that.
Yeah, no, I agree with it. Wow, we showed our youth. That's one I haven't thought about in a while. Of all the McNabb and Andy Reid quotes that came out in that era, that's what I haven't thought about in a while. But no, that's a great comparison between what Kyler Murray had to say about his receiving core and, yeah, the showing your youth comment by Donovan all those years ago. Holy pots and pans, that brings me back.
I think that was the second to last game he played as the Eagle, right? That was the Cowboys game?
It was towards the end. I definitely remember towards because it was right before the very brief Kevin Cobb era started. So I remember that. And I remember the following year, Deshaun Jackson, when he was addressed in the media after Donovan was traded to Washington, Deshaun Jackson made it a point to talk about how this team was going to be led by the young guns. And I was like, is that a shot? Is he taking a shot back at the guy that took a shot at him? I think he is. So yeah, the young guns taking over made me think of the McNabb quote as well.
Here's an interesting Eagles-Cardinals tidbit. You know the Eagles and Cardinals have each had different quarterbacks in their last, 5 meetings?
Yeah, I guess they would. Yeah, because Nick Foles was out there. I remember they lost a game that Nick Foles had the ball in his hands for the final drive and tried to punch it in there. They didn't do it. Jalen Hurts obviously started out there in Arizona 2 years ago during his real rookie season. He was the starter for the last 4 games. I think that was his second or third start, taking over for Carson Wentz. And he had a phenomenal game. But yeah, wow. It's a trip down memory lane a little bit.
Yeah, I remember the whole Mike McMahon experience? Remember they played the Cardinals in 2005?
Oh, my God. You're going back to Mike McMahon. Oh, my goodness. Yes. Wow. What a time. I was at that Seattle game, that Monday night game, the Reggie White game. Mike McMahon was playing quarterback. Coy Detmer came in and played in that game, too. Oh, what a time. The only thing pretty about that game was the snow. The halftime ceremony was nice, too, for Reggie. But, man, everything else was terrible. Oh, man, everything else was terrible.
Fans folded that game after halftime.
Yeah. Okay, we paid our tributes to Reggie. We paid our respects. We can go home now. Yes, it was terrible. 49, 46 to 6 or something.
42-0.
Nothing. No, they didn't even score. Jeez.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
That 05 team, it had so much potential. It really did. And once that played hurt the whole year after that spear
sports
shot.
hernia. Yeah.
And then when he threw that pick to Roy Williams, I'm just like, man, this sucks. I'm like, this completely. T.O. is off the face of the earth. Andy Reid kicked them off.
Yep.
I think that's why Andy Reid is honestly such a great coach. All the BS he had to deal with from that season, I think that really made him like, you know what? I don't need any distraction you put in front of me is nothing compared to what I had to deal with.
Yeah, that was the high bar of distraction. I can get through this. That was his boot camp of distraction. I can get through this. I can get through anything. Sure.
Which is awesome because he loves T.O. He's a huge T.O. guy. And T.O. loves him. So it's honestly really weird how that just didn't work out.
I mean, I go back to that, and I remember being on T.O.'s front lawn during that whole training camp debacle. And I just remember thinking, they need to fix this because I've never seen an Eagles season like that. I was 22, I think, when the Eagles went to the Super Bowl. I was 22. And I remember thinking, I've never seen an offense like this. This is incredible. We had been screaming for the Eagles to get a number 1 wide receiver for all those years. T.O. gets here. They got it. They go to the Super Bowl, even though he didn't play the last 3 games of the season because of the broken leg. And then he comes back. He plays great in the Super Bowl. Fix this. Whatever you got to do, fix this. Joe Banner, give this man a blank check. Fix this. But it's crazy. I think if they would have paid T.O., it would have been even more of a problem in Philadelphia because I don't think Donovan would have been happy about T.O. not only getting the love and admiration of Eagles fans as being like a savior to the franchise for being the guy to put them over the top, but also being a guy that was going to get top money at that position in that time as well. So that might have started a whole other, I just think that no matter what, that was going to fail. It sucks to say it because you want to think about it with Disney glasses on saying, oh, happy ending. No, it wasn't. No matter what, it wasn't going to happen. Whether that was T.O. getting the money, Donovan would have been pissed about it maybe, or T.O. not getting the money and then being pissed at Donovan for not coming to his aid like he did for Brian Westbrook at that time. Whatever was going to happen. And then T.O. goes to three other teams, goes to the Cowboys, goes to the Bengals, tries out at one point, I think, for the Seahawks. It didn't work anywhere for T.O. So it was bound to fail because wherever T.O. went, problems followed.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I used to get on Skip Bayless for a lot of things, but when he called T.O. team obliterator, he wasn't exactly wrong. So, and again, but how can I say AJ Brown to me, it's like a T.O. type signing, but it feels so much different. Like you, what T.O. brought to the table. You knew he was going to get his touchdowns. You knew he was going to create drama, good drama, because his team would win games. But AJ Brown just seems like the exact opposite of him, and he gets along with his quarterback. And it just feels like this is a marriage that's going to be in Philadelphia for a very long time.
Yeah, the pre-existing relationship between him and Jalen Hurts, I think, really helps. I mean, these aren't two guys that met at the Pro Bowl, essentially, and, really hit it off on a great first date. And then they started dating for a couple of months, and they're like, why does their jaw click when they chew? What the hell's that? Like, that's kind of what happened with Donovan. Like, the honeymoon period was over rather quickly with Donovan and T.O. But this is a relationship that has been long withstanding. You saw the guys were flat out giddy when A.J. Brown was traded for with Howie Roseman, bringing him to Philadelphia. But A.J. Brown is, yes, very talented. I do not put it, and I've heard this comparison before, I don't put it on the same level as T.O. T.O. was a Hall of Famer by my standards, a first ballot third most touchdowns in the NFL, receiving touchdowns in the NFL at the time that he retired. Still at that case right now. I remember asking him, I think he was three touchdown receptions behind Randy Moss. And I remember asking him maybe years after he played his last game, hey, you're only 3 behind Randy Moss. And he's like, damn, 3. I'll get that in a game. And I was like, oh, God, that's amazing. Like, please, somebody sign him as a tight end. But with A.J. Brown, I don't see him as the home run hitter. Terrell Owens was a grand slam hitter. A.J. Brown is a guy that will get you 10, 11 receptions a game. He'll get you, 130 yards. But those aren't going to be huge chunks. Yes, he'll get the occasional 50-yard reception, but it's not going to be the huge chunks that you saw with T.O. And the ability to break a tackle that T.O. had is still, I think, unmatched by any Eagles wide receiver I've seen in their history, that I've seen in their prime. Like, I didn't get to enjoy a 6'7", 6'8" Harold Carmichael in his prime, but I know what he brought to the table. But when I watch a guy like T.O., I just saw a guy that anytime he got the ball in his hands, he was going to the end zone. That's one thing he inherited from Jerry Rice. It was that he's not about first downs. He's about running to the end zone every single play. A.J. Brown is more of, I think, a control possession type of receiver that is still phenomenally talented, but I still have them in very different categories.
Yeah, and we haven't seen the big plays yet from A.J. Brown. Like, A.J. Brown has the most 50-yard touchdowns in the NFL. We haven't seen that yet. I think we're going to. It might be Sunday. I don't know, because the Cardinals do have a good secondary, but I feel like sooner or later we're going to see this like big 5-catch, 160-yard, 2-touchdown game from A.J. Brown. I just feel like it's coming.
Right, like the home run hitting type of game, like the game against the Lions. He had was that a 50-yard reception that he had where
he
right before half? Yeah, he had Jalen Hurts back foot, bombed it down the field. It was great. But yeah, that was like an 11-catch, 150-yard game. But you're talking about the home run games. Yeah, I think we're going to see a couple of those this season, and I hope we do.
Yeah, so I got to ask you about the Cowboys. I've been getting a lot of flack for this. I think they're actually legit. I don't think Dak Prescott should come back yet, because right now he can't grip the football. Right. But when looking at, okay, which teams could beat the Eagles? Which teams are the biggest contenders for the Eagles? One of them just happens to be in their same division because of defense, because of what they're able to bring to the table. They're getting better at wide receiver. What are your overall thoughts on the Cowboys right now?
I don't know what to make of the Cowboys right now, simply because they're not playing with the quarterback that they're going to be playing the majority of the season with. And I don't think, and I know that on Tuesday, Jerry Jones did his radio appearance and said that Dak can't grip the football right now. They had him out there with the softball trying to grip it, and he's just trying to get that hand strength back, but he doesn't look like he's going to be playing against the Rams. So I still think they're going to play the vast majority of the season with Dak Prescott as their quarterback, their franchise quarterback. Cooper Rush has done a great job filling in as the backup quarterback. I mean, he's got a 95 passer rating, I believe it is right now. They're 3-0 with him as the starting quarterback, and the Cowboys defense is in the top 5 in terms of fewest points allowed. So guys like Micah Parsons are getting it done again for this team. Micah Parsons himself got four sacks this season already. I believe he's 5th in the NFL in sacks this year. So they're still getting it done at the clip that they were able to do it at last year. They're able to get to the quarterback with quarterback hits. The penalties aren't as crazy and off the charts as they have been. I look at the Cowboys right now as an anomaly. Like, I think, yes, they're overachieving, but they're overachieving because they have a backup quarterback in there right now. I look at a team like the Giants that are also 3-0. I think they are overachieving, but they have the starting quarterback that they have in Daniel Jones. I think that's kind of start to level out for the Giants. They're playing a better brand of football with their new head coach and Brian Dable. But I look at the Cowboys, and I just think they're a tough nut to crack. Their defense is going to continue to play as well as their defense, even with Dak being back. I think one thing is true when Dak comes back. The defense of the Dallas Cowboys is going to remain steady. They're going to be one of the top teams in terms of fewest points allowed. They're going to be one of the top teams in terms of getting after the quarterback. They're going to be one of the top teams in forcing turnovers with Diggs by the time the season's over. So as this season progresses, I think the Cowboys are going to show that their defense is more of their identity than their quarterback. Even when Dak comes back, I think it's going to be a tough thing for him to top what that defense is to be able to do. When the Eagles play the Cowboys, the number one thing I'm going to be worried about is how Jalen Hurts attacks that defense. It's how Miles Sanders and this offensive line attack that defense. It's not going to be about what this secondary does against Dak Prescott. It's not going to be what this defensive line does against Dak Prescott. It's going to be whether or not the Eagles can win that 17-10 game against the Cowboys. That, to me, is going to be more so true to form for the matchups going forward with the Eagles and the Cowboys.
So when the Farzy show starts Monday, this is my final question for you. Will you be talking about Eagles 5-0 and the Phillies being the Cardinals, or go into your crystal ball here, Farzy? What do you got?
Well, football is king in this city. I have been, because of Philadelphia's love, and I grew up here, obviously, but because of Philadelphia's love for football, that always trumps everything else, regardless of its postseason baseball or not. So the Eagles will be the lead story. As I structure the Farzy show, I have about a 15 to 20-minute opening segment where I break it all down. I'll be talking about both things. But I think the thing I'll be most excited about for me, it's always postseason anything. So it'll be baseball for me, and it'll obviously be the Eagles improving to 5-0 when they win this football game by a score of 34-17. Boom!
All right. I like it. 17-point win. I do think it's going to be a close game, but you're right. I could see the Eagles pull away at the end. I could see that. Like, it's a 7-10 point game, and then you're right. I actually got the Eagles. I think when did I have them? When did I write for CBS? Oh, 31-17. So I'm not that far off from you.
Don't you love that when you forget your prediction? It happens to me all the time.
No, I get
literally have to write it down
all the time. Yeah, we're going to go over the one thing you wrote for every NFL team. I'm like, oh, wait, I forget what I wrote about every NFL team.
Yeah, it's tough, man. It's tough. But no, I got the Eagles winning this one. I got the Eagles winning this one. Handle. I think that the Cardinals, they give a nice little scare similar to what the Jaguars did. Maybe not a 14-point lead, but maybe the Cardinals score first, and it's like, okay, all right, guys, let's go, buckle up. Let's not make this such a bumpy ride. But I just think Jalen Hurts is playing like an MVP right now, and I think in every facet, with the exception of maybe kicker, because Jake Elliott's not going to be playing in this game, so we're going to see Cameron Dicker, the kicker, in this game. I think that Jalen Hurts just had this. Here's what impresses the hell out of me about a team being 4-0 like this. The Philadelphia Eagles are 4-0, undefeated, and they are the hungriest undefeated team I think I've ever seen in anything. Like, maybe the one exception. What's that?
They're not satisfied at all.
They're not. They have stayed true to form, and I've made this point many times with Seth Joyner and Derek Gunn on the pregame show. I've made this point many times. They have maintained through the first 4 weeks exactly what Jason Kelce talked about before the season started. Nobody get comfortable. If we get comfortable, we're not going to be breaking down that film after a win the same way we do after a loss. We're going to start feeling ourselves. We're going to start smelling ourselves. We're going to start reading those press clippings about how great we are. Jalen Hurts being pissed off about not being asked about the Cardinals was beautiful. I thought that was amazing, and that's no slight at the media. I don't think that the Cardinals are watching the press conference going, you mean to tell me Les Bowen didn't ask about the Cardinals? That Jeff Kerr didn't ask about the Cardinals? You mean to tell me that Jeff McClain wasn't in the press conference to talk about that? No, they don't give a damn. The fact that Jalen Hurts went out of his way to say, hold on, this isn't going to be par for the course where we overlook an opponent. You guys don't ask me about this. We're playing a good football team. Let me get it on record. Stenographer, get this down. The Cardinals are a hell of a football team. We can't overlook anybody. That shows me that this locker room is not allowing them themselves. The leaders on this team, the coaches on this team aren't allowing themselves to go, we're 4-0, baby. Look at us, how great we are. You're playing a team in the Cardinals that was 7-0 and finished the season rather lackluster last year. So the Eagles haven't done anything yet. They realize that. I love that they realize that. And because they realize that, they're going to get up to a 5-0 start this season when they win 34-17 over the Cardinals. The Cardinals are going to take 3 losses this weekend. 2 are going to be in St. Louis. Another one's going to be in Arizona. Bang!
I love it. He's already got a show prediction for Monday. Mark, appreciate you coming on. I got to get you on more Football Fridays. I just love the freelance talk. Anytime you're welcome to come on, man.
All right, hey, man, it's a pleasure. It's good to be on the show. I appreciate it, Jeff. Good to talk to you, man. I'll have you on the Farzy show sometime as well. And make sure, everybody, we got a 4:25 kickoff, so that means the pregame show on the JAKIB Media YouTube channel here with Derek Gunn, Seth Joyner, and myself. And Devin Caney will be on the pregame show this week as well. Yeah, Devin will be on as well with the later game. So it'll be all 4 of us on the panel talking all things Eagles and beating the Cardinals and be off to a fun start. Should be getting underway. I believe that'll be 1:30 start time, 2 o'clock. I don't know. Ask Krause. We'll figure it out.
Yeah, Krause. Well, I was going to actually promote your time, and I don't know what time you guys come on, but you got to listen to the pregame show. If you're not watching football or you're not watching the Phillies won't be on the late 30.
Yeah. I'm going to say 2:30. I'm going to say we're going to do the show at 2:30. That's my prediction.
From Ocean Casino, of course.
Ocean Casino. Hey, come for the live shows. Come for the win.
I love it. Once again, Mark, I appreciate it. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks. Oh, by the way, in your chat real quick, just somebody compared A.J. Brown, I think, to Anquan Bolden. And I thought, Davy Boy. Good hustle, Davy Boy. I'm on with you with that. Hines Ward is another one. That's a good one. Those are 2 good ones right there. Chat, thank you very much. Jeff, always a pleasure, man. Thanks so much.
Jeff, sounds great. Thanks, Farzy.